Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you live from SmartCon by Chainlink in New York City. Joining us for this segment, we have Patrick Witt. He's Executive Director of the President's Council of Advisors for Digital Assets. We're here to discuss U.S. digital assets progress and the top objectives to advance legislation forward. Patrick, it is great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
You got it. And let's talk about the state of the U.S. digital asset progress. What are your top objectives?
Well, number one, market structure. Number two, market structure. Number three, market structure. I'm pretty much camping out on Capitol Hill these days, talking with different senators on the Senate Banking and Senate Ag committees. Very encouraged by the progress, especially over the past few weeks, from folks on both sides of the aisle, really digging in as we get closer to a vote in the Senate here. Nothing sharpens the mind like, a deadline. And so we don't have a specific date here, but certainly before the end of the year, there's going to be a vote on this bill in the Senate. And so we're encouraged by progress that's being made. We do want it to be bipartisan, and we think that it will be at the end of the day. So working out the final few issue areas that are a little bit more challenging, DeFi being a top one there. But I'm very optimistic about the progress that we made.
Has the shutdown impacted the momentum of legislative efforts, Bitcoin Reserve?
There have been some complicating factors. For example, CFTC detailees that were over on Capitol Hill working with Republicans and Democrats, kind of as their technical experts to work through the bill and really understand the different muscle movements that are in there. But then in other ways, it's been actually positive in a strange way, which is, certain meetings that otherwise might cloud a senator's calendar or, competing priorities have kind of fallen by the wayside. And so we've been able to have great access to senators and their staffs during this time in a way that, during normal operations in government, they may have, been a little bit pulled in different directions. So we're engaging with folks, they're making time for us. They're really engaging with the text, and I'm very encouraged by where we are right now.
So this leads me to my next question. You spent time in the Office of Personnel Management, the DoD, now the DOW. How will that experience help you to achieve your goals and get regulators to implement?
I think anytime you have experience across government, you understand how the policymaking process works from inside the agencies, being over at the Pentagon, understanding how, top decision makers in the national security space are thinking about the different problem sets, not just from, military operations, but then working backwards into the defense industrial base and technologies that are going to give us a strategic advantage. So all of that is helpful. It comes up in different ways that you might not otherwise expect. For example, I was having a conversation with Senator Rounds yesterday talking about, the market structure bill, and then he wants to pivot into talking about AI and, the power grid and different enablers to allow, the U.S. military to have advantage. So being conversant in a number of different topics, I think, establishes credibility. It also gives me a unique perspective to look at a certain problem from different ways you might not otherwise have if you're just siloed in one area.
And it's interesting because our coverage extends to emerging technology. So to your point, AI, digital assets being a leader in innovation, you can even look at digital assets through the lens of national security as well. There's a number of cases that you can make to that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we think about what has allowed America to have its dominant position, its kind of hegemonic position on the global stage. It's obviously our military prowess, but then it's also our position within financial markets and our technological innovation. So all of these different technologies, whether it's blockchain, whether it's AI, nuclear, you can go down the list. In the biotech space, a lot of the amazing things that are happening now, a lot of it enabled by AI and advanced compute. They all go together, and they all, have one unifying theme, which is that America wants to be the hub for this innovation in these different areas. And, we want to win the future. So across the board, we want to do that.
What about the importance of public-private partnerships, the contribution of academia and R&D to advancing not even just digital assets, but the broader innovation and technology story? It seems as if it can't be, one versus the other. It's going to require scale on the public side, innovation on the academic and private side, and the ability to move it along. Even getting community buy-in, to your point before, understanding your audience. How important is this to advance?
It's huge. You realize when you work in government, you have a bunch of folks that are, good faith and trying to do their best to address these problems. But, I'm not an expert in every, category across government. And sometimes I might be in a conversation where, the subject matter is not, very I'm not deep in that particular area. And the same is true for other folks that are being brought into the crypto conversation. And so one of the ways that we get after that and we build up our own expertise is by partnering with private sector actors who are, the leaders in their field, in whatever field we might be talking about. So government can't do it alone. You're limited on bandwidth. There's actually not that many folks, at the end of the day that work in government, despite the millions of people that work in government. So you really have to rely on those folks in industry who are good faith actors to come in, give you an objective view about, the issues that they're facing from a regulatory standpoint, and how to craft solutions that allow them to do what they do. When people bring up the question of, how's the White House approaching innovation? It's like, well, we want to enable it. We want to enable it, and a lot of times we want to get out of the way. There's kind of that efficient frontier of regulation in different areas that protects people and ensures, avoiding bad outcomes, but also is not so overly burdensome that we're, hamstringing innovation. So that's certainly the case in the crypto space and with the market structure legislation, with the Genius Act, the stablecoin bill that was passed previously. We're always trying to strike that balance between the appropriate level of regulation to allow an industry to flourish and have that certainty, but also not overly burdensome to where we're holding back American innovation.
Yeah, and this was really interesting because the conversation is taking place at SmartCon. You have, government here, you have technology practitioners, you have financial institutions here, and the conversations have really been robust, watching the three of those areas come together for collaboration. I mean, even if you look at the digital asset space in general, for the most part, there is bipartisan support, right? So they're, being able to have these different conversations, understanding your audiences and why it's a priority. We're the leaders in global capital markets. We want to maintain that position.
It's an incredibly exciting time to be alive, not only because just as a consumer and someone that is going to benefit from these technologies, but it's also an amazing time to be in government to work on these issues because we know that what we do now will impact the future, decades into the future. And also, the timing right now, America can fall behind. There's no guarantee that America is going to, have its, current state on the global level. It's something that we have to work at every day, and that we as policymakers have to ensure that we're doing what we can to make sure that America is well positioned for the future. So I don't have kids yet, but the folks that do, and certainly someday I hope to have kids as well, are going to either benefit from or be harmed by the decisions that we make right now. So it's a great responsibility that we have, and we have to get it right as best we can with the information that we have.
So back to digital assets as we look forward here. Market structure, market structure, market structure. That gets passed, it's into legislation, it's codified. What would be next? What are your longer term goals?
Well, there's a number of actions that are taking place across government on the interagency front, whether that's tax guidance that needs to get out there from IRS, the SEC, CFTC continuing to work together to harmonize our regulatory framework right now. Obviously, with two regulators, that's somewhat different than a lot of other countries out there, but in some ways it can provide advantages because you have different perspectives and markets and a history that has informed those markets to become what they are today. We are the envy of the world in terms of our capital markets. We want to maintain, that status going into the future into this new financial system that we are building and that folks like, that are here are actively building day by day. So there's so much to be done across the government right now, and it's a privilege to be in the role that we're in, managing across the different agencies.
Thank you so much for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me from SmartCon. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.